Thank you for that warm Irish welcome. I'm always struck by the beauty of this place. When I first viewed the film that we're about to see, it was in a quite different theater. That's when I first met our director, Signe Astrup, as well. It was about a fraction of the size of the place we're in now, but it was really a wonderful place. As Ricky said, I'm the chair of the Department of Russian and German, and it's my privilege tonight to introduce the director, Signe Astrup. Signe spoke to our students this afternoon to my class, and she talked a little bit about herself. She is from Denmark, and she ended up in Germany about the time, about the age of our undergraduates in her early 20s through a study program. It was supposed to be a short-term 3-month program, and then history was made. She witnessed the fall of the wall. The fall of the wall, and it became clear again in our discussions in class today, is a euphemism. It's a much too kind euphemism because there was actually a lot of tension and violence. It's not the Velvet Revolution people claim it was, and concern that there would be more violence at this time. Signe told the story about the fear that people had, East German soldiers in particular, about the fact that they might be called out to shoot upon the civilian population. So that was a very helpful reminder. We asked her this afternoon to characterize her work. We had watched another film together last night. And Signe said that a theme that kind of binds the films that she's produced so far and written, she's a great screenwriter as well, is her interest in the underdog. And what we call in German schräge Figuren, figures not crooked in the sense of being criminal, but out of the limelight or out of the mainstream, people who are different. And you'll get a taste of that this evening. So she's looking for the underdog. She also talked about her status, the gift of being an outsider, in this case of being a Dane, and being able to view Germany not only with the freshness of this outsider perspective, but also lacking the historical burden, not having suffered the trauma of being spied upon by the Stasi, or having been part of either side of that great East-West German conflict. Her work, she's not a hard-boiled director. She's not a hard-ball director. She's not confrontational. She is concerned to avoid using people to stand in for any particular situation or ideology. You'll see that, I think, tonight as well. And she's concerned to be true both to her subjects, who are quite extraordinary, and to herself, which, as I think you'll see, is a huge challenge. An abiding concern of hers, a word she used again and again this afternoon, is Versöhnung, which translates as reconciliation. This searching for a way to bring people who are from quite different backgrounds together. Indeed, she's searching for understanding. And she mentioned, and I think you mentioned this in Berlin as well, the fact that she wants her audiences to understand that truth is multiple, truth is complex. And I don't believe that's in any kind of reductive, relativistic sense, but really in the sense of that truth is multi-perspectival, and one has to kind of live with those differences. So we have someone who loves the underdog, who valorizes the outsider, who is a fan of reconciliation, promoting understanding. Has there ever been a time when this set of values has been more important? Has there ever been a time when these ideals have been more necessary? Please join me in welcoming Signe Astrup.
Well, thank you so much for these kind words, and thank you for having me here. You said almost everything, but I still have a little story to share with you. Working on this film has been mind-changing for me, and it has challenged my views in many ways, especially on the characters of the film. And to illustrate that, I would like to tell you a short anecdote. It's a story that didn't find its way into the film. It is a story that might have some course on history, but if you want to tell it to anybody, don't do it on the record, because it will never be the official version of history, but it is still true. Well, I think that we all have an image of authority figures from communistic dictatorships, from communistic countries. That was at least what I had. We have seen many of these characters in movies, and we might connect them to attitudes like strictness, like stubbornness, maybe even evil. We would definitely expect them to reject Western culture in any way. Why else should it have been forbidden to watch Western movies, to listen to Western music, or read Western books like it was in the former German Democratic Republic? Well, some years ago, working on the film, I met with a high-ranked former general from the National People's Army, and he turned out to be very polite and very kind and very open-minded towards me, and he told me about the night when the wall crumbled down. You already talked about this tonight, but there is still a little aspect that I can share with you. The night when, in November '89, when the Berlin Wall crumbled down, the government had made this enactment of free traveling to the West as a reaction of the huge waves of refugees, people escaping from East Germany to Western Germany. So they made this new ruling, and after the council had met, the former Secretary of State asked the military commanders to stay and to join him by watching a movie. And while they were watching the movie, there was a press conference taking place. You might know that story. It's a very well-known story about the press conference. It was informing about the new ruling in front to Western journalists, and by mistake, the new law was announced to come into force immediately. Actually, it was planned to come into force the next morning, and then it was expected that people would go and ask for visa, to apply for visa, and then maybe after some weeks they could travel to the West. But now, by mistake, it was announced to come into force immediately, and that was taken into breaking news in Western TV challenges. And although it was not allowed, almost everybody would watch West German TV. So people got notice of that, and it made a mass of people heading towards the border and seeking access to the West. And as we all know, the situation got out of control, and finally it led to the fall of the Berlin Wall. And well, during these things happens, we still have the military commanders watching a movie. And what he told me, very surprisingly, and you have to imagine older men between 55 and 75 watching a movie, and surprisingly, they were watching a blockbuster that I think we have all seen, and it was Dirty Dancing. And you are the first, actually, that I share this story with. I kept it for me until today. But I think after traveling so long, I think it was the right place to tell it. It also illustrates what I have been trying to do in my film, to go to the point where the stereotype falls apart, and where the human being behind gets visible. And I really hope that the film can take you there, and that you can make your own judgment. So yeah, please enjoy the film.